Nothing changes instantaneously. In a gradually heating bathtub, you'd be boiled to death before you knew it. Our Father, who art in heaven. Seriously? What the actual fuck?
Gilead doesn't care about children. Gilead cares about power.
Why does healing have to be the only goal? Why can't we be as furious as we feel?
For whatever man sows, so shall he reap.
Welcome to Above the Garage. Hi, friends. Have we got a treat for you today? I mean, who am I kidding? It's a treat for us, really. Bruce Miller, the creator of our absolute favorite TV show, has kindly joined us for a chat. Thank you and welcome, Bruce.
Hello. It's so nice to see you guys. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
It really is you. Wow.
It really is me. And this is my favorite podcast because you all sound different from each other.
Is it hard with the accents to adjust? I always wonder that.
No, it's not hard. It makes it a lot easier because you know who's talking.
Yes, that's true.
Kate, you're in Philadelphia?
Yes, I'm Philly.
I'm Australian.
Yes, Kimberly is from Perth and it's 2:30 in the morning there. So she's very, very excited to talk to you.
Oh, Kimberly, I'm so sorry. And Violet, where are you?
Yeah, hey, I'm same time zone as Kate.
Violet does all of our editing, so she spends she donates the most time to this podcast.
Thank you, Violet.
For reasons we don't understand, but we appreciate so much.
I know. I don't understand editing either. But I wanted to take a little time beforehand to say thank you for doing this. And it's incredibly, I know how much work it is, or I imagine I know how much work it is. And I know it's, you do it out of love. And I really appreciate it and like listening just personally, except I make you sad.
It's your job,
and,
really.
but it really is. It's fantastic, and it's a pleasure, and it's appreciated. So thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
That was really sweet of you. Thank you for making such an incredible show. We're also honored to be hanging out with you on such a consequential day for both the show and reality as it pertains to the show. The finale comes out tonight on Hulu, and it's election day. Was that a coincidence?
It was a coincidence to me. I don't schedule the show when the show's going to be on television. I have enough trouble just trying to make it in time for them to put it on television because we finished this episode 3 days ago. I think it was a coincidence, and it's awful to be a relevant television show these days.
Growing more and more relevant by the day, but hopefully not this day. Hopefully tomorrow you get less relevant a little, maybe.
Hopefully, yes.
But the finale actually aired at an event at the Academy Museum last night. And like Tiff, it looked like you had an absolutely awful time together.
Yes, we had a screening here and in Los Angeles of the finale, which was great to see it on the big screen. So lots of loud cracking noises and all sorts of stuff. And it was really fun. And to hear Lizzie cackling every time they went, it was great. So, they all, because we don't ever see each other, the group of us making the show.
Yeah.
We do it very remotely. And then honestly, everybody lives around the world. So when they all go home, no one goes home to Los Angeles and hangs
Same
out.
place. Yeah.
We're lucky and shockingly blessed that they all like each other. So
That's
they like
amazing.
each other. I know, I can't even believe it because
We love when you guys have events like that because we are flooded with pictures of everybody loving each other, and it's just delightful.
and being excited to see each other. And usually the first time we get to see each other is on the red carpet. That's because that's where everybody arrives. So you're seeing the moments where everybody's like, oh my God, look how tall you are.
That's why they're so good. I love it.
Yes, that's why they're so good.
So that's a behind the scenes take. I always thought maybe you would interact before you.
No, it would be better if we did because because we have so much stuff to talk about that we haven't started, and they don't want to take pictures of us chatting.
It makes for some good pictures.
They want to take pictures of Yvonne going like this.
She looked hot. she was a great outfit last night, Yvonne.
Oh my God, yeah, she looked fantastic.
Yeah.
Did she just fly in for this?
No, she lives here.
Oh God, why did I think she was in Australia?
I thought that as well.
Because she's so Australian.
Oh yeah.
She brought the Australian here.
I feel like her accent is kind of hybriding.
It
at
is
this point.
merging. It is. Yeah.
Wow, her American accent is breathtakingly good. Yeah.
How do they do that? Yeah, Kimberly, I've never heard you doing.
I had absolutely no idea she was Australian because I saw her on Dexter.
Yep, and no,
she
didn't have a trace of an accent on Dexter.
No, it's crazy. And then I was like, oh wow, she's from Sydney. I was like, I had absolutely no clue. And then, but then when I hear her on interviews, I'm like, oh yeah, I can hear it coming through a little bit. And she's like, crikey. And I'm
I know.
she's still Australian.
Yeah, she calls Serena a cunt a lot, and no one on set uses that
Oh,
word because we're all
there we
Americans
go.
and Canadians, and she uses it all the time. We're like,
Oh yeah.
I was afraid she was going to say it
yeah.
on the panel last night.
Kimberly just sent me a koozie for my birthday. She sent me a box. And apparently the slogan for the Northern Territories in Australia is see you in the NT.
Yeah.
There's
It
this
is,
giant
yeah.
cunt written on
Yeah.
I can't believe that's their actual slogan. It's not
I
a joke.
know, I know, and every time she says it, I blush, and she's like, oh, I forget. It's not something you people say. So, but
That's
she can
so
get away with
funny.
saying anything. She's like,
Yeah.
like a really tough Grace Kelly. She's amazing.
She's delightful also in that I don't know, she understands her character. There's a good distance between the two of them. Like she's incredible at it, and yet she can talk about it realistically.
I don't know. She respects Serena, and yet she seems to despise her as well.
Yes.
So anyway, I think it's just, I think she knows her intimately. And if you knew Serena intimately, you would like things about her and really despise things about her. So I think, I think Yvonne's got it pretty wired. I don't know how she does it. It's amazing. I don't know how any of it's all magic. I don't know how any of it goes.
I don't think any other television show has the outstanding cast that you do. Like every single one of them is phenomenal. And not just the cast, like every level, cinematography, the music, the costume, like it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. I don't know how you don't sweep every Emmy every year.
Also just the fact that you can bring on new characters like later in the game and we care about them and attach to them as much as the older, the characters that have been there since the beginning.
Yeah.
I was surprised at how much I attached to them and how much, but I was shocked because generally I'm allergic to change. So I don't, no, but it's true. Bradley came on and slid right into the cast and he was thrilled to be on the show. And the fact that it was Lizzie was just a bonus.
Mm-hmm. Did you have him in mind when you were casting?
I wanted to add another commander because I wanted June to be moved. And I was I had thought of the story with Emily beforehand. So how to get June into that house and all that. So I had tried to figure all that out. But it was much more kind of both at the same time we were casting and I was trying to figure out who the guy was, what the guy was like. Yeah. And so I don't know Bradley at all, but he has such a kind of particular way of talking and a particular vibe that I watched a lot of his stuff and just kind of copied that. And then we moved on from there. The great thing about television is it's a bit of an echo chamber. So it's like you guys make a show and then I don't know if you do, but you can listen to it and adjust. If you're making a movie, you make a movie and then you're done. Everybody goes home and then you got to sit and edit it and decide. And whatever you did wrong, and you're not going to be able to fix. On TV, the great thing is you put two people together and you're like, well, they don't have chemistry. And you next week move them to two other viewers. Or especially in a show like this, I'm lucky enough to have actors who talk to me and we discuss things. And you start to get a sense of how their brains work as human beings. And so you can start bending the characters so they make more sense to them so that they could do better work, that there's fewer questions, but also the way that they talk. Yvonne's like, bam, when they say cut, she turns into, someone who's dancing on the street in Melbourne. She's like, unbelievable. Yeah, she could just turn it on and off. But I have a group of people who can talk to me and learning how Lizzie says the word of course, learning how Genevieve said Serena. She had such a great way of saying Serena because she could make it sound so like awestruck and so mean at the same time. Anyway, she was terrific. So the great thing in television is you can watch that stuff over years and years and adjust the way you write for the actors, and the actors can adjust the way they act for your writing. And so you actually polish both of those things up. Maddie is a great example because Maddie, Janine isn't really in the book very much. She's in a little bit, but she built that character, up herself. Janine could be a certain kind of character you've seen in a million other TV shows, but she's not. She's found a way to survive and thrive. And for whatever weird way it is, she's doing okay. And I think everybody else is kind of in awe that her version has worked out. And so, she has lucked out or charmed out or optimistic her way out of all sorts of things. And I think that that's a lot of Maddie not letting Janine be weak, but making Janine have a very conscious choice to use this as a coping mechanism. She's not been driven crazy. She's chosen to be this way because it's a fucking lot easier than being any other way. Yeah. I mean, look, is everybody else around her thriving? No, she's, so I think that she's made Janine kind of what I feel like is she's given her a lot of wisdom. that I didn't necessarily think the character would have had, and it's what makes her wonderful. And Maddie, by the way, is just the most wonderful person.
It's nice to see her and Anne together in random, behind the scenes. They seem to really love each other.
Yes, and Maddie's they would very much be more together, but Maddie's in London. Doing cabaret which I would
love to see that.
If you have a couple of $1,000 lying around, I would recommend
yes,
darting across the pond to see her, because Max went and said she was just amazing. So
I'm sure. I'd love to see that.
And I think Samira is also there, right?
Oh, Samira's at the Old Vic, at another play. Those things are very difficult to schedule, and it's one of the reasons we've been able to hold on to our actors is, you have to be able to say yes when they say, can I go do cabaret in London for 3 months? So you have to be able to say yes, and it doesn't always fall in the hiatus. And the number of projects that this group of actors had to say no to over the last 6 years because they couldn't do it because of schedule, you would drop dead. It's every single movie, every single person, every single TV project you ever wanted to be in, and everybody you want to work with. And so whenever we can make it work, we make it work.
Quite a testament to your show.
It is. It's so nice that they come back, but I think a lot of that is that they like each other, because I'm not there. They can hate me, but they like each other, and I think that Lizzie being number one on the call sheet puts you in a position of kind of just being a leader from the first day. It doesn't matter if you look like you're 15, like Lizzie did. You're a leader from the first day. But also, she's been on so many other long-running TV shows. She understands that job in a way that other people don't. I mean, she understands that it's not just the acting part. There's all this other stuff about you got to lead the cast by example and all sorts of stuff. So it's harder even for her because she had to put the cast together, and there were people who she hadn't really met that many times yet.
Yeah.
Everybody only raves about her. She's
a good egg.
Incredible.
Yes. I am very lucky we have a cast without jerks. One jerk just kind of ruins the whole thing. And a lot of it came from at the very beginning. I had been on so many shows where there was like one bad, creepy person. It's always usually someone who's like spoiling for a fight, and everybody else is walking on eggshells the entire time.
Exactly.
And that doesn't seem fair to me. So I said to the casting people, I don't want any, check everybody out. I don't want any jerks. And they really took it to heart. They're very experienced. They know exactly who the jerks are and who aren't. And they never sent me anybody who had a bad reputation.
Wow.
But I also checked out people.
Personally?
When you check out an but when you check out an actor, it's a difficult thing because you can't call you want to call the right people. So I always call the editor of their show, because that's the person who knows whether they are good or bad. Yeah. And then you call the wardrobe people, because if someone's a jerk, they're always a jerk to the wardrobe department.
Really?
Okay.
That's a good tip.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. We have friends in the Upside Down. I don't know if I've
listened to other
Ever and Steven.
Oh, with Ever and Steven. Oh my God. Oh.
Yes, it was delightful.
Ever lives right around the corner from me here.
I saw on Twitter she saw you at the stoplight or something. It's a small world out there, huh?
She saw me at a stop. She is such a Hollywood kid. Her entire family is actors.
Yeah.
And so she grew up here. She has a completely different view of the business. This is all her friends, who she grew up with. Right. And she lives like 100 yards from where she grew up. So she's kind of, it's provincial for her, the business. It's like, driving down Laurel Canyon and seeing someone you're working with, it's exactly what happens to her every single day.
It's so funny.
No, it is. It's very funny. And she could not look more like Ever Carradine in person. She's so not any different. She looks exactly the same. Yvonne with her hair down, I don't think you'd pick her out.
She's different. Yeah.
She is freakishly tall. But
see, that's why I didn't know Genevieve was small, because I've always thought of Yvonne as like a giant. I don't know. I'd have to be around them.
Giant.
She's about my height. I think she's 5'8" or 5'9" in socks, but she only wears flats in the real world. I mean, flip flops only in winter, like a crazy bird. But she only wears, and so when I see her like at an event, I'm like, oh my God, or working. She has. So then she looks like a giantess. What's the sexist word for giant?
I think that would be it.
A human being, tall human, Australian.
If I ever met you, Bruce, you'd probably think I was a giant too, because I'm actually 5'11".
She is a giant.
Last time I was on a podcast, I made the same joke, and someone said, "Oh, by the way, I'm extremely tall as well." So I'm glad you're freakishly tall.
Maybe Australians are tall.
Yes,
it must be. Our sample of 2 has proven it.
a sample of them too.
Kimberly and I have never met, but I am not tall, so it should be interesting next year, hopefully.
Yeah, I'm 5 feet even, so I'm like, it'd be like Genevieve and Yvonne if I stood next to Kimberly.
We'll try to bring you all together at an event of ours. So
Well, that would be
yes.
incredible.
That would be amazing.
so you can get some pictures on the red carpet.
Oh, that would be
incredible.
fun.
Wow. Yeah.
I'll have to
Very
practice
fun.
my pose.
Yes.
You should do exactly that. Whatever
That,
you do,
yes.
perfect.
Yeah.
Works great. McKenna is the most amazing though. McKenna
Oh.
Grace. She
Oh, yes.
How is she so talented? How did she do that hospital scene?
I don't know. She bruised herself up, and afterwards she was like, "Thanks, bye."
Oh.
You know, I'm gonna go play the ukulele. She's like such a normal. Anyway, she's great, but one of my favorites, and it's very funny. It's the only person
Yes.
my nieces and nephews give a shit that I've met.
Uh-huh.
They're like apoplectic about McKenna. And I cast McKenna on the show, and I had never seen anything she was in at all. I cast her from the audition. I didn't know who she was. So
That's
what do I know?
incredible.
Yeah, she's amazing.
I watched her in Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
Ghostbusters the other day.
With her perm.
And it's
Yeah,
so
she's in that.
yeah, it's so funny how different she is. And then she's so good at playing just a wide variety of different characters. It's amazing.
I think she's greatest at Esther. That's the creepiest
Yes, I do as well,
character.
yes.
Oh my
Oh, I
God.
agree.
She's so happy. Lizzie taught her how to smoke.
I forgot that it's actually a teenager smoking.
Yeah.
It's a teenager
yeah.
smoking, and it was like the greatest moment in all of our careers. Lizzie's like, I'm going to hell. Kenna's like, Lizzie must taught me how to smoke. And I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? I've ruined both of them. I've ruined both of their lives.
That is
You know,
hilarious.
So it was so funny. She goes, all my friends have already smoked in roles, and I haven't. It's nice that Lizzie was a child actor.
It was a great moment.
Yeah, it was a great moment. It really.
I mean, it was stunning. You know, you really get it immediately. Oh shit!
Mhm.
And there were pets in that one. I liked that. It was our
There
first.
were pets. Yes, there are pets. Well, no, we had one in the first season.
Thank you for casting pets.
Yeah, most of them are German Shepherds because they're failed
Yes.
guard dogs, is what they really
Oh,
are. Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Oh,
That's-
so
But they
interesting.
don't have cats.
Wow,
yeah.
thank you for cutting that from the book. Actually,
You know why they don't have cats?
I would love to know.
yeah, tell us.
Toxoplasmosis.
Oh, that's so smart.
They're worried about anything that might affect fertility. Yeah, so
Oh,
they
yeah.
completely wiped out. Long before Gilead came, there were no cats. Cats were
Huh.
verboten.
Wow. That always makes me think of Train Spotting.
I haven't seen that in
And
decades.
so
Someone gets toxoplasmosis and Train Spotting from a
Yeah.
cat. Yeah, it's the whole thing.
That is really interesting, Bruce. Wow.
Yeah,
Thank you for
that's
sharing
amazing.
That.
Has that got something with the cat's pee? Am I-
Yeah.
I think it's the pee
Yeah.
or poop. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll
yeah.
defer to Violet.
The litter box.
Cleaning the
and
litter
stuff.
box. You're not.
Oh
supposed
yeah.
to.
Yeah. Right.
When you're pregnant and stuff, you're not supposed to.
Violet's an expert on this.
But oh yeah, the Putnam interview. That was a really kind compliment you left on YouTube.
Oh.
Do you? How did their backstory compare to your thoughts on their backstory?
They weren't that far off. I've heard enough of that on set, you know, and actors try to put together a backstory, especially someone like Ever, who does a ton of TV shows where she's popping in and popping out. And you know, she can pop in and they say, oh, by the way, while you were gone, your husband was killed in a car accident. You know, go on, you know, and she's got to go, you know, like they change everything while you're like at home or on another TV show. And so I think that she's very, very good at kind of putting together a flexible backstory. The other person was my favorite, Sydney Sweeney, who is such a good
amazing.
actress,
Doing amazingly.
such a good actress, and such a sharp cookie, and normal and grounded and solid and professional. And I just adore her. She's so good. And she put together everything that Eden had ever eaten, you know, for the rest of, like, since she was born, you know, that she breastfed and all that. I mean, it was hilarious because, you know, Sid is young and she throws herself into every part. And it was just adorable. I wish someday they would take that book and publish it. The book she wrote.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of where I came up with the idea that she was writing in the Bible.
I love
because
that. That was the best reveal.
It was
ever.
such a cool reveal.
Yeah, it was a good reveal. Yeah.
On the topic of backstories, did Nick's mom die? Do we know? I don't think we're ever going to find out.
Did Nick's
I don't think
mom
we have
die?
time to find out on the show. Does Nick? Yes. He's only reference to, I mean, his dad and his brother.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of, the way you guys have to think about the show is, I know you think about it as there's a whole picture, but the way I think about it is, I'm only showing you little dots of that picture.
Right.
Yeah.
For you guys, I'm giving you the illusion there's a whole picture, but I know, and there is no picture. It's an illusion. So when you ask what's that question, the answer is, ooh, I'll figure that out when it means something.
If I need to.
Yeah. But the problem is a lot of people when they start out in TV try to figure out the whole world, like every single thing about it. But you don't have to. You just have to be sure that the things that you're saying make sense in that wider world, because part of the book, the great thing about the book is you don't see anything. She mentions the colonies, she mentions this, you don't see anything, and it's so much better because everything is like, so what I'm trying to do is fake you guys into thinking you're seeing a real world the same way I'm faking you into believing that these are moving images when they're just stills one after another. I'm just flipping it past you so fast that you think it's a real world. So
impressive.
Nick doesn't have but it's the nice thing is you wake up in the morning and you say, well, Nick doesn't have a mother. Shall I give Nick a mother? It's like you're God for,
it's a nice life you've created for yourself.
Yes.
Sounds very fun.
Yes, it is. And especially fun when no matter what horrible thing you do, ooh, she gets run over by a car. Lizzie calls and goes, that's so great. I mean, all they want to do is this stuff. You cannot believe the stuff they're excited about. When they were giving birth together, Lizzie and Yvonne, oh my God, it's the greatest time they've ever had as human being. And I'm like, it's the weirdest job ever. Like she's kneeling between her thighs. They're like, it's disgusting. Anyway, God bless them. They just, it's an odd job and they make a lot of money at it and they have a lot of fun. So
I was very impressed that June knew how to.
Oh, for God's sake, Kimberly, where do you think babies come from? Stop saying that.
I know, but like
she knew how to do it.
Like she put her hand up her skirt, was trying to feel the head, and I was like, oh my God.
They learned when they were handmaids to do that.
Oh,
all of that stuff is handmaid stuff. They're learning to help each other give birth. And so they know a ton more than than me.
We do.
This gives me huge clarity.
They're 3 times, but I didn't.
Thank you very much for that.
So I will start, if you don't mind, I'll pull over some of our other podcast members to ask you some questions while you have time.
I would love to. Absolutely.
Awesome.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you so much for doing this.
Hi, Marigold. Can you tell me where you are?
I'm from Wisconsin. You can probably hear it in my Midwestern nasally accent. There's one other Midwesterner on our podcast, Megan. So we have that Midwestern camaraderie. Yes. We're neighbors. So, so my question is, in an interview, you had talked about how Alexis leaving and Emily's character leaving affected Moira and Rita's storylines.
Yeah.
Are you able to elaborate a little bit more on that?
Well, it's just a question of, when you're on a show that's running like this, instead of kind of getting to the end of season 5 and starting to think about season 6, I've been thinking about season 6 and season 4. So Alexis made a very kind of early decision, very professional, but I was so far ahead and had planned things out that I was so expecting just the same things. As I said, I'm allergic to change. As I was so expecting her just to come back. So that upset my apple cart because I kind of committed to things very early, but it wasn't any professional mistake on her part. The only thing is what you end up doing is I try to make the story really feel like, and you can feel it at the end of the season when they get back, you feel it kind of come back together. You want it to feel like it was unexpected yet inevitable. You want it to kind of click like that. So if you want it to fit together, when you pull a piece, it really hurts and it's hard. When we had filmed for like 6 or 7 days when COVID happened. And so our set completely shut down. Then we had to come back about 3 months later and shoot with all of these protocols. And we had to rewrite every single script, and they're houses of cards, on purpose, because they're supposed to be good writing, which means they're supposed to all work together. And also McKenna Grace got huge in the time in between. I mean, she's like 14. So she comes on at the beginning, and then she comes on 3 months later, and we had to redo all the, carefully make sure all her wardrobe looked the same and everything, because she's a kid and first of all, she grew up an inch or two. But it was kind of, if you want everything to fit together, pulling out any piece, especially something like Alexis, is a 4-alarm fire for me, someone like me.
Yeah, definitely.
We loved seeing Sylvia come back for, just one more scene.
Nice to see her.
And she is such a good actress, and really that was a lovely thing for her to do. And so I promised her I'd write something juicy. And she's so spectacular. I mean, look,
Awesome.
she actually is a a queen of doing that in movies, being in one or two scenes and totally stealing the movie.
Yeah.
She's in Zodiac. She's in one scene. I don't remember any other scene from the movie. She's like spectacular. And so she did this, and it's the same thing. She just shows up. I mean, she did before with she was in those scenes with Alexis. She didn't even talk.
Yeah.
In the airport. Oh my God.
Wow.
So anyway, she's wonderful. I'm thrilled that she came up. She has a very busy life and family, and she's directing. And not only did she make time for us, that was a time period where one day of shooting was 2 weeks of isolation and 2 weeks of isolation after. We paid them for a month for every day. They deserve it for sitting in isolation. Although Maddie did do some funny blog entries that she slowly went insane. But these are my shoes. Anyway, when you have anything that throws an alarm into it for me, any rock into the pond, but I don't like that.
Yeah, so hard.
I'm old.
Thank you.
Hi, Megan.
Hi, Bruce.
This is the other Midwesterner. Figured let's just do the Midwest here.
Minnesota here.
Hello, Minnesota.
My question for you is, I'm curious about the changes you make from the characters in the book to the screen. I could probably pick your brain for like an hour, but I'll kind of stick with Nick here. So in the book, he is heavily implied to be like Mayday or, a part of the resistance. Margaret Atwood has said that he's an embedded resistance operative. So those of us who have read the books kind of see him as that, but other people in the fandom who might not have read the books see him as something else. I would say it's a vocal minority who kind of, we get into it on social media about like, oh, well, we feel like he has this path and they feel like he has a different path. And we're all kind of curious, like, well, what path is he on from the book difference to your Nick? I mean, he's ambiguous in the book as well.
Yes, which gives me the chance to do anything I want when he's ambiguous in the book. But
yes.
That helps. I mean, he's a very different character in the book, and he's also a man of a very different time.
Right.
He very much is a man of that time, and this is 30 years later. People are very, very different. The thing about Nick is that my feeling is, and this is he. All the stuff he does with June and Mayday and all of that stuff would be perfectly legitimate in his job with the eyes. Making those connections, knowing what they're doing, helping them do things a lot of the time, figuring they have no problem working with Mayday. It's good. I mean, what he does with Mayday, they play both sides of it. So he doesn't have to hide almost any of that from his superiors. All of that fucking up with Mayday is they'd be perfectly happy with, they don't have a problem with him kind of, as far as they're concerned, sleeping with a contact in Mayday in June, as far as they're concerned. It all seems, so I think that his job with the eyes is very free. I mean, he can do whatever he wants to gather information, and certainly he's good at that if he's passing any of the information along, even a small version of it. He knew what Fred was doing, he knows what Serena's doing. So I think he's good at his job, and that he from the outside seems good at his job. So he's never in trouble for being a bad eye. So if he's sympathetic to anybody else, he can cover it as part of his job. So I don't think anybody there knows and I think they think of him as, one of the loyal people in Gilead. But the thing you have to remember, Nick says it himself, I try to stay out of trouble. Mm-hmm. That's the whole goal. He's a guy who survived a lot longer than he should have after, the beginning of Gilead. So I think that's his centerpiece, which is when, if you think of someone who tries really hard to stay out of trouble, the only thing that makes him get himself in trouble is June.
Right.
He's a guy who does everything he can to stay out of trouble, and she constantly gets him into trouble, which is why, that's the one thing he's doing without thinking it through. So almost everything else that he's doing, he's kind of, okay, well, if my boss came down and said, what did you do today? I'll say, oh, I met with my, he's got answers for everything. First of all, he's a man, so no one questions him.
Right.
So Nick isn't, being questioned about his relationship with any of the women in this story. So, but is he incredibly sympathetic to Mayday? I don't know. I think he's sympathetic to June being healthy and safe and getting what she wants. He didn't expect to fall in love with her when he was just being protective, so it didn't end up like the other one. I mean, I think he really, really would have preferred not to fall in love with her. I mean, it makes it awfully difficult for both of them.
Right. It makes it hard to comply and in a situation where it's a comply or die. And here he can, his mask can slip when it comes to love for June, and he can be found out. So he's towing the line to survive, per se, like a lot of
everybody else, absolutely everybody else. But I don't think he's no more. He doesn't believing in Gilead. I don't know what that means. I mean, it's been 70,000 different things, and it's a million different things to. I mean, do you believe in America? Look at what we do to refugees.
Right.
Think of how many women are raped in America every day. It would be considered a horrible, if it went from 0 to that, you would think, oh my God, what's happening in America? But so we're all supporting a regime ourselves. So I don't think he would choose it or get on the side of any of it, but he definitely is a cog in the machine. And I think he feels like, from what he's done in the past, that he has no choice. The Gilead's the only place that he can make a life where he wouldn't either end up being a pariah or end up in jail, but certainly not have a free life. So I think he doesn't have any choice. He can't bail.
He ended up in jail anyway.
Yeah, he's trapped.
Well, he ended up in Commander Drunk Tank, which is probably not jail. That was really nice jail.
It was. With no cage.
Not as nice as Serena and Fred's, though.
Well, Serena and Fred, first of all, that was so much less nice than the normal ICC custody. They're not criminals. They haven't been convicted of anything. They are innocent until proven guilty, and they are the heads of state. So, you treat them differently. They're an actual official in another country. So you have to treat them differently. If they get off, they can go back. The jails in Canada are nicer than the jails here, but they're not that nice.
I believe
but
that.
that is so much less nice than the stuff we saw where, they put the people up in The Hague, where it's gorgeous and you get your suits made at home and they bring food from home. And I mean, we do research on all of that stuff. And as everybody was up in arms about the jail, so was I, but that's the jail.
That's
where they put
them.
Yeah. So we talked to the UN, we talked to the International Criminal Court, we talked to all those people. And a lot of times you can't believe it when they tell you stuff.
Yeah.
You're like, when you check out the research on June getting run over by a car, she'd be home from the hospital the next day.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we were wondering that actually. We were talking about that.
I was like, what? I was like, that's not possible. They're like, yep.
That's so interesting.
Especially if they needed to do surgery on her arm. If her arm was broken and they didn't do surgery, she'd be in for a couple of days. But if they did surgery, she'd be out the next day.
Wow. That's really interesting.
Interesting.
It's cool that you did the research. Okay, Tina. Sorry. Go ahead, Tina.
Hi, Tina.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure.
So my question is again also about Nick. Could you tell us a little bit more about his relationship with Rose? That was obviously very interesting to us this season. Specifically wanted to know, how much did she know about his relationship with June? And did he specifically choose Rose because of her ties to the Mackenzies and Hannah? Like, we thought maybe that could have been something.
First of all, when I heard you guys going through the season, I wanted to reach out. I feel like this is the most romantic Nick and June season there is ever, because they try the whole time to be apart and they can't. They don't even succeed a little.
Right.
They try the whole season to okay, it's over. And the last thing she says, she has no idea he came to see her in the hospital.
Yeah.
She's like, just make sure you tell him we're okay.
That was so.
It was so sweet.
We're like, tell her, Mark.
Yeah.
Right. And he goes to see her in the hospital and he doesn't want to wake her up. It's like he gets nothing out of going to see her and blows everything. So it seemed to me that the whole point of the season was he was trying so hard for her too, to let her go, have her life and everything. So he's trying out of love to fall out of love with somebody and to fall in love with Rose. So I think that they found each other, and I think they talked about all of this ahead of time, and that he had to help somebody, but also it could have been couched as my work with the eyes, certainly. As part of my job in the eyes, I have to do this. So I think that's why she was kind of realizing that, no, this isn't really that. But I think he picked Rose because he could be open with her, that she seemed like a normal, moral person. She grew up in Gilead because of her ties to the hierarchy, because she's a much safer choice and it's more stable and you're less likely to get hung on the wall, theoretically. So, and also she was born with a birth defect, so she was supposed to be killed. Right. And so she was born to a fancy enough family. So she's kind of damaged goods, the way that they see it. Certainly they didn't think she could get pregnant.
Right.
It's an honest relationship. It's as honest as a Gilead marriage could be. And she was able to get pregnant. But I think he made promises to her that were aspirational, not actual.
Right.
And I think that he tried to convince himself the whole time that he's, in love with her and married and going to move on, and he can't. But it's so great that they keep trying. They're not idiots. They know that they're like at different colleges. They can't date, but they keep trying to. And I love just the fact they keep trying to shake each other off, and there's no chance. And even as an audience, member, why are you even trying?
Yeah, they were both very bad. They're both very bad at trying. Yeah.
They're both very bad at trying, but very good at acting. And the scene where they saw each other at that private school is one of the best acting scenes I've ever seen on television.
Yeah.
The way that they play Lizzie has to say, "I wish the world would just stop for a while," which is a line you never ever want to say as an actor because it sounds so schmaltzy, and she makes it perfect. I don't know how she did it.
Yeah, she did.
It's like magic. It's like she's a witch.
And how cruel that you made Nick look like he was going to kiss her, and then he turned.
That was cold.
It was so awful. Oh, the whole thing was awful. But you can feel the magnetism. That, to me, I just like the fact that as soon as they separate, they feel like they want to get back together. That it's not. It's just like that's when it starts to feel like love. When you want to, they just seem like they fit together. So anyway, I hope I answered your question.
You did. Thank you very, very much.
And you guys haven't had Max on the show, have you? You should.
No,
not yet.
He is a delight. He is such a nice, gentle. There's a lot of Nick without the darkness in him. He's very much like Nick, but none of the darkness, a lot of sunniness. And he's a pleasure.
I actually ran into him after Paley Fest, like several blocks away. Strangely, it was the strangest coincidence. But he was lovely.
He's lovely, and the way he talks about Elizabeth Moss is the way you want every colleague you ever work with, every professional colleague you want to with. It's so much respect and like specifics about why she's so good at her job and how much.
We love it. Raquel, go ahead.
Raquel, nice to meet you.
Hi, Bruce. Thank you ever so much for spending time with us today. My question is about Serena. We finally see her apologize to June in the barn, which to me didn't sound all that sincere. Was she being honest? Is she really sorry for her action, or is she just using June as a lifeline now that she has literally no one else left?
Yes. She's doing all of those things. Is she being sincere? I think she's being sincere in that moment as much as she can, or as much as anybody else probably, in the world is sincere when they apologize or say things like that. She's apologizing for X, and June was offended by X, Y, Z, Q, and T, and so she didn't apologize for that. So I think that she is apologizing as genuinely as she can for Serena. But I don't know. I've said before, I don't really understand redemption, the idea of redemption in a TV show, because I don't know about you in your life, but have you ever seen anybody who was redeemed? Do they get a stamp or something? What happens? Do you get like a t-shirt? Because it's like, your life is going on past there. You can still make tons of mistakes or again, misinterpret the stuff you did in the past. If Serena's saying everything I did in the past was awful, 100% I can put money on the fact that if you sat down with her, you could convince her that everything she did was wonderful, because she is that person. She believes what she needs to believe for Serena. It's Serena first. And she believed that it was okay to do what she did to June because of the way the world was. And she made herself believe that it was okay, and it was okay to smack her. Anyway, I think Serena is environmentally influenced, that she is in this slightly more free environment, and she's the more restricted one, and she's reacting to that. And I think if you put her in her other pond, she would immediately react like she did in the other pond, like just a terrible human being, which I, certainly think she is. So
what do you think would be her excuse for raping June at 9 months pregnant when it was already a risky pregnancy? Sorry. What was I think I made that decision rashly. That's what you would say. But would she? I don't think she would apologize at all. It was within the rules of the state. She doesn't feel like she has anything to apologize for. It was awful for us, but it was only awful for us because we were realizing what June goes through every time. She was showing us what she goes through every time. But this was what, Serena had to be comfortable with this. It was awful, but I think she would say maybe it was a little harsh, but she pissed me off. She pushed my buttons on purpose. What?
Did you see her after she had that baby when she went to false labor? I should have smacked her right there. I should have reached up and taken that baby out of her. That's what Serena thinks.
You made her real mad. Was Serena staying at Tuello's for those couple days between the escape and the train?
No.
Damn it.
Mark Joello is very good at his job.
All right. Oh,
Oh,
I
okay.
like that. I like that
Okay.
interpretation.
Do you remember when June said to, told Serena to be absolutely plan the demise of the Wheelers? And she said, "Is that what you did?" And it's like, look at Fred and look at you.
So good.
So when you talk about all the stuff Mark's done, look at Fred and look at Serena.
Yeah, you're right. So good. I love that.
Look at all the information he's gotten. He's done a spectacular job with Mark Joello. And Sam Yeager, who's also a delight and has 3 kids.
We love Sam and we love Joella.
We love Sam so much.
And I found out last night his wife teaches Krav Maga.
No
he
way.
casually said that on set. He goes, on the stage, he goes, my wife teaches Krav Maga. And every 2 cast members, I turned to Lizzie and Lizzie said, "Did you know that?" And I said, "I didn't know that." And Warren turned to, it was like hilarious. It went all the way down the row. Like, what? That's
so
a great
cool.
story. I can't believe we don't know. And we've met her a couple of times. I mean, I would have been a lot nicer, but.
Wow. Yeah. Watch yourself.
Isn't that hilarious? So.
That's amazing.
Joello was our most valuable player of the season.
We just did a season 5 awards episode because we
Yeah.
just don't like to stop talking about your show. So
I'm with you. It's nice to meet people who are in the same insane asylum. That's it. Yeah, Lizzie and I, when we're sitting on our 2 free minutes talking about the show, that's what we always say. It's like, oh God.
We're there with you.
Hi, Bruce. How are you?
Hi. Fine. I like your painting.
Thank you. I'm from Puerto Rico. My question is, it's really amazing to see how past scenes tie up or close a certain arc with certain characters. How do you choose, the parallels in the show that we see that go back to past scenes like season 1, season 4, season 2, season 5? How do you choose those? What's the process in that?
It isn't really choosing. I mean, it's kind of part of the writing process. You immerse yourself in the previous seasons and you hope that stuff kind of oozes out in the same way kind of the actors do that. They don't push things in one direction or another, but when they're having certain emotions, they let things go there and it happens a bunch of times. So I think the parallels in the show, the ones, I don't really put them in the script, but visually they take them because visually it's a lot easier for those parallels to work with you guys because the way your brain works, if I say the same words again, it's weird or it strikes me as weird. But if you can so we do a ton of visual mirroring. A lot of that is planned by the directors of photography. So Nicola, Stuart, and then Stuart, and then there were 2 Stuarts. But Nicola and Stuart, they do that, and the directors certainly, especially Lizzie, because Lizzie remembers all those things from when she was here. It was started though with Reed Morano. I want every shot to be iconic because I feel like television doesn't kind of stick with you enough anymore, stick with me enough. So I wanted every single shot to be iconic. And so when you do that, you kind of are referring back to a lot of that iconography. But you guys notice like 1/60th of the parallels I tried to put in there. I shove them everywhere. And,
Nice.
But what it is it's really a 60-40 operation watching my show. I always, that's my intention. If you turned it on and you didn't know anything about it, literally, you didn't know what it was about, you turned it on, about 60% of it you should get. Understand the story, understand who people are. It should be 60% enjoyable. But the 40% is the bonus for watching other episodes. And in that 40% are a lot of things that are really tough to find and little juicy things that, like I love how it sends people down rabbit holes, and I also feel bad when it sends people down rabbit holes. But the parallels are all intentional. I think the decision at the very beginning was because there's so many parallels in the book. It was one of the central aspects to Margaret Atwood's storytelling. And it's important to look at the show not as a myth, which every single drama you ever watch is a Greek, mythic structure, Greek drama. This is a tale that's completely different. And Margaret structured it, and I'm following that structure. So everybody talks about, is June a hero? No, she's not a hero. She's June. She's, it's what the good guys, bad guys, protagonists and antagonists. I mean, all that stuff is just television appreciation. It's not television. It's not drama. So I think that when you watch it and kind of feel the parallels, a lot of that is I think built into what is a tale. I mean, if you think of like the Canterbury Tales, it's all parallels one after the other. The other thing I wanted to tell you was Puerto Rico is its own country. We haven't mentioned it yet, but they shook us off, and they're their own friggin' country. Thank God.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wondering.
Thank you.
Claudia.
Hi, Bruce. I'm Claudia.
Hi, Claudia. It's so nice to meet you.
I'm from Austria, and I have the question, what's your process like as a showrunner? Do you begin with a brainstorming session and then episode outlines, and then you go to the individual writers to write the scripts?
Well, it's a very good question. If I turn to the computer a little bit that way, I have season 6 broken on that board. If you guys want to see,
Don't mind it. Yeah,
don't mind us. So the way you described it is fairly accurate. What we do is, it's very much like, if you guys all got together, I know you can't, but if you guys all got together and said, what do we want to happen next season? That's just what we do. It's just we're better at it than you are, and also we can execute it. So, but we don't really brainstorm. Brainstorming is like one of those things. It's great to teach in elementary school. And when you get to being a professional, brainstorming's awful, because it's like, I don't need to hear all the shit that isn't going to work because you've done it a million times. I just need to know the stuff that's going to work. I don't need brainstorming. So we don't brainstorm. We sit down and start to talk about kind of the general story. And the way that I do it, honestly, Claudia, the big secret is I usually have a retreat at the beginning of the season. And it's usually about 2 weeks, and we meet. And when I was on ER, they took us to Hawaii for our retreat every year. On my show, we go to my backyard. That's the difference between being on ER and being on Handmaids, is we go in the backyard. And it's lovely, and it's adorable and fun. But what we do is we just start talking about the previous season. Where was everybody at the end of the season? And we go one person at a time. And we don't talk about what's going to happen next. We just talk about where they are. Mm-hmm. And usually, although I don't say anything, by the end of it, as a showrunner, I know the season. By the time they finish talking about all the characters, and they haven't said anything about the next season. Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to do is have them solve those problems before they realize they're solving those problems. Mm. So then later, when we're talking about episode 3, I say, oh, back on the retreat, you guys said this, and that would really work here. And they think they're geniuses, and it's perfect. And it's their idea, and they came up with it. So I do a ton of listening and a ton of active listening. I know if you imagine a bunch of people sitting around pitching stories, you think it would be rather chaotic, which it is on most shows. But we have a rule that we don't interrupt people when they're talking. It's a male-female thing. It was always in the writer's room that men always cut off women. And so no one cuts anybody off, which is really funny when people first get there, because the only way you're used to talking is waiting for someone to cut you off. Everybody has a family or sibling. So people get there and they start talking and nobody cuts them off. And it's a pretty big room. It's like 13 people. So 12 people are listening to you talk, and you talk and talk, and nobody cuts you off, and you talk and you realize I'm turning into an idiot, but you can't stop till someone cuts you off, and nobody does. So you have to teach people to stop and let silence go. And it is so hard, and it's so funny how uncomfortable people get. They just start going. They don't know how to stop talking. So I think that's the biggest thing. So for me, I always thought I was a really good person in the writer's room. I pitched great ideas and all this stuff, but I wasn't a very good listener. I was always waiting for my turn to talk, which you can see. Obviously, I like to talk. So I was waiting for my turn to talk. And that's ridiculous. You're not listening to anybody else, which is the whole point of being there with a bunch of other people you're paying. Yeah. And the other thing is, you're not listening to see if your thing is someone's talking about something that's going to affect it. You're just going, okay, remember my thing. So I pivoted. I tried really hard to learn how to listen, because when you're the showrunner, first of all, people get nervous when they pitch, especially the new writers. And so they start going, like this. And they don't, and what I always try to do is remember, this is hard for them. So if they're pitching me something, even if I think it is the stupidest thing I've ever heard, they don't think that. So I've got to figure out what they think, not what I think. So keep asking them questions till I find out what. So we talk about the season broadly as a group, and then we start talking about kind of the shape of it. What big things would happen where. And we use index cards on a bulletin board. June runs away, June recaptured, all those kind of big, they're called tentpole moments, but I hate them. Big things that are going to happen in the season. And then we start talking about episodes. Now, each episode is written by one person, but we outline the story all together because it's easier and more fun, and I hate sitting alone. So we put up literally scene by scene. Every scene is a card, and we break it scene by scene until it's up there, and we've all signed off on it, and we've gone through and stress tested it and says, is there anything better to do here? And most of the time, our stories come from the fact it's just what would happen. So if you guys want to guess what's going to happen on the show, just think about what would happen. And that's you don't think that's going to happen because you watch a lot of TV, but it's really, the show is, we almost all the time tell you what's going to happen. And then you still don't believe me. June's like getting on a boat to Canada. I say, she's going to Canada. Boat's going to Canada. She's going to Canada. Everybody's like, she's never getting to Canada. We're like, no, she's going to Canada. And when she gets to Canada, everyone's like, oh my God, she got to, I can't believe it. I was like, I told you 300 times that she's on a boat to Canada. Where do you think she's going? But it's in TV, if you say boat to Canada, well, the last thing that's going to happen is Canada. Because on TV, it's always misdirection. So I just tell you guys exactly what's going to happen, and no one believes me. You guys trust me so little. So it's just, it's absolutely perfect. So then the individual writer goes off to write an outline on that episode. So they take the board, go off to write an outline, and then we move on to the next episode and start breaking that. Then we send someone else off to write an outline, another writer. That writer who wrote the first outline comes back, we give them notes, they go off to write a script. And then the person who wrote the second outline comes back, you give them notes, you're working on the third, the fourth. At a certain point, you have like 6 scripts in the air. So you've got one person outlining, one person breaking, 2 people writing outlines, and 3 people writing scripts. One of them is rewriting scripts. So you're in a room alone now. Your entire staff is gone because you hired all these people and then you assigned them out. And so it becomes much less of a staff as you move along. So whereas you would think that it would be smart to use your best people first, the people you could depend on, and sometimes I use my least experienced people first so that at the end, I'm not stuck with only the least experienced people. And so you send people off to write scripts, and then we start going into prep for production, which is preparing for each episode. So you prepare for exactly the same amount of time as you shoot. So we shoot in blocks of 2 episodes. So prep is, 40 days or 40 days-ish or something. And that's when the writer is very involved in production. They do their producing job, production meetings and all, every crazy, hilarious meeting you can imagine. I mean, when we cut Stephen Conklin's hand off, we had like a zillion arm meetings. It was great. We always have arm meetings and fly meetings and fire meetings and we had a placenta meeting, and oh my God, it's great. I mean, it's the best thing about the job. But what happens is that person's then gone into production, and that producer, and then they start shooting, and that person is also there. So then everybody's gone. So then what I'm doing is I'm breaking episodes, and I'm giving notes, and I'm helping in prep, and I'm watching the shooting. But then post-production starts as soon as they finish the first one. So they're editing the first 2 episodes. So then I'm editing 2, shooting 2, prepping 2, and writing 4.
That's insane.
At the same time.
Wow.
So it's hard to keep all those balls in the air. It's what you learn as kind of coming up the ranks to be a showrunner. But it's actually the most fun part of it for me I like that because I don't have to write. I could write the whole thing and then shoot. I don't have to write during the season. I mean, it would be longer between seasons, even longer than it is now, but I could do that. They'd let me. But I like being able to change it on the fly as you see how things work. I don't want it to be static. So I want to watch this and go, ooh, and a lot of, Yvonne and Sam was just, they were all sparkly together. I mean, it wasn't necessarily written that way. And Yvonne would be like, ooh, look, he says, Sam's adorable. So it's just so fun. And they are hilarious because both of them are married, have other people. And in real life, they don't really have chemistry. It's just,
that's so funny.
So, so it is very, very odd, but they, go out and Yvonne brought her whole family up to Toronto this year. So they all the other people who were missing their children followed Yvonne and her family around. So there's a lot of pictures of people stopping them on the street. It's like Naomi and Serena and Mark Toello on the street. I think people stop them. So I hope that answers your question. It's a very overlapping process.
That's really interesting.
And what ends up being the most difficult thing is the continuity, because if I'm off writing a script and I get a really good idea and I'm going to change something, I've got a lot of people ahead of me that need to know. So you can see why, though, Alexis's exit affects things, because things are very enmeshed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We were wondering in the finale when Luke makes the sacrifice to stay on the train platform, which we loved. That was a wonderful scene.
But OT was amazing in that. I love that.
Yes. The acting was incredible.
I know, he was sitting in front of me. I kept poking him in the back of the head the whole time.
Oh,
in the theater while we were watching last night. I was like, look how good you are.
Yeah, that's great. But we were wondering, because the way that he says June Osborne on the phone, we're wondering if there's some weight to that more than just him letting her go because he's endangering her in that moment, or if it's, I mean, because in the previous episode, she says, let me go to him. And we were kind of unsure like how she meant that and whether she meant more, whether there was more meaning to that. Like, I need to go and I've changed so much and we don't really understand each other anymore.
Well, there's a lot of things surrounding that. And I love that line, and I wrote it, and I don't quite understand all the things about it, which is the best way because OT did a great job. But for me, there's the letting her go is as much letting her be her own person as a like
right.
Letting her be her own person and express her fury in her own way.
Right.
So that's the let me go and do what I want to do. But the thing that I thought it was hearkening back to, so much of the show's about identity and your name and all that stuff, is that was the woman he fell in love with, was June Osborne.
Right.
When you first introduce yourself, when you meet somebody, I just like the fact that he's hearkening back to the way they were before Gilead. That's what it felt like, that it was the old times. So that's what it was supposed to be for me, which is he was like, the same way I loved you when I first met June Osborne, when you were June Osborne, not June, my wife, who I could say honey, and you would know who I'm talking about. If you were still that stranger, boy, I still love you. Just looking at you across the platform, I still love you. So it was supposed to be hearkening back to the beginnings of what they were. But I think that Luke has done a good job of letting June go as the seasons come along. I think he has been letting her go. And I think she's basically saying there's no amount of let go that's good enough now for her, because she's so she doesn't like any rules. I mean, that's the way I feel. I mean, wouldn't you feel that way after
yes.
Gilead? Yeah. And so it's so I think that she is bristling at anything that is restrictive, whether it's physically or, I mean, when she puts on the bulletproof vest, it's like the most restrictive thing ever. So she's bristling against any of that kind of stuff. I love that scene, by the way.
Yeah.
The entire finale.
Yeah, the finale is the best. We love
everything. We actually recorded that episode that we recorded for 4 hours and had some serious editing to need to do afterwards. I don't even know what we got it down to, but yeah. Julia, sorry, go ahead.
Hi, Bruce. I'm from Germany.
Hi.
Yeah, my question is about Nick also, and you've been talking about his motivations this season a little bit, and we've also been talking a lot about the finale you wrote, and especially the sentence of Nick on the bridge when he says, "I'm nothing," was really touching for us all.
Yes, me too. Poor Nick.
Yeah, so we were wondering if, aside from the feeling that he's not enough for June, if he's also does not belong to Canada or cannot be free from Gilead.
Well, I think it definitely doesn't think he deserves to be free, that he feels like he's done such bad things that he, and been part of so much cruelty to so many people, that I think he just doesn't feel like he deserves any kind of happiness, which is kind of, you can see that pulling on him, he feels bad whenever he has a good time with June. He kind of feels like, oh no, all that kind of stuff. So Nick's motivations, I think, are not self-centered. I think that's the one thing about him, is he's not a selfish guy. He doesn't mind taking a hit for somebody. He doesn't mind suffering for somebody, and he's not afraid. He kind of feels like for me, it feels like he's trying to be a martyr. He would love to, die for the right cause, and nothing seems to be happening to let him die for the right cause. And now he has something to live for. He has, someone to live for. So I think when he says I'm nothing, all of that stuff is just the way they feel about themselves. It's not me saying Nick's nothing. It's him. And I think he really does feel like that. That's what I was hoping Mark would hug him, but he didn't. But it was so sad.
Me too. We would have loved that. We would have loved that.
Wouldn't that have been sweet?
We're super fans of Blue Aloe.
As far as you know, but probably Sam did hug me. But I think that Nick's, if Nick and June were together, they'd be going to therapy to work on Nick's self-esteem problem. So saying I'm nothing means he feels like he doesn't even feel like he should wake her up. He doesn't want to knock her off track. So he feels like he desperately wants to be with June, but he's terrible for June. So he spends the entire season trying to convince himself that I don't have to be with June. I can fall in love with somebody Gilead, and it completely fucking fails. Completely. I mean, he breaks up with her for, I'm not gonna see you again. And then the next episode, he throws, I mean, it's amazing. So he is I think Mr. Hard on himself, and also he's Mr. Lie to himself a lot of the time too. Like I can get over her. I like the fact that he's a slave to his emotions. In that way that he kind of he's emotionally locked onto June, and that's not, it doesn't waver. It doesn't. And I think seeing him in the past, he felt the same way about his family, and I think he felt the same way at the beginning about the Gilead idea. So it's hard for him. You can see how a guy like that loves. And it's hard to love like that because, I mean, he can't let go of June, and there's no way. They're in different countries. They're both married to other people. I mean, on paper it looks, but he doesn't even, I mean, it's like he's an idiot for thinking they're ever going to see each other again. And yet he totally believes it. So does she. So yeah, I just like the fact that he's such an emotional guy, and those people in TV shows are not usually emotional people. And he really is an emotional guy.
One of my favorite scenes of all of them is in the second season when he tells June, word for word what Luke told him. Like, you don't see that on TV much in these, like, it's just moving.
Well, those things are very difficult to write because you gotta think about it. Means so much what he says. I mean, it's like when you get into a situation like that, you think, oh my God, this is my lover has talked to my husband and is bringing a message. It's so complicated and soapy. And when you think about but what you need to do is think about what would really happen. And I think Nick would think it was disrespectful to June to not tell her what was true. Mm-hmm. And he's not selfish in that way. He's selfless. He's selfless to the point where he'd be very happy to die, and not happy, but he's, he figured he's going to drop dead, in service of June for some reason or another.
Yeah.
He's it's like the story oftentimes with June is what would happen if Joan of Arc lived.
Yes.
All of a sudden she does this huge heroic thing and tries to, and then now she's in Toronto going, okay, what does Joan of Arc do next? It all seems so scary. So anyway, I hope that answers your question a bit.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, you're down to 2. Thank you so much, Bruce. Go ahead, Rachel.
Rachel.
Hi, Bruce. I'm Rachel. I'm from New Mexico.
Hello, Rachel in New Mexico.
Thank you so much for joining us today. So my question has to do with the way the show was already in progress, and then The Testaments was a book that Margaret Atwood wrote and came out while the television show was partway through. I think the book kind of came out during season 3.
So you feel my pain. Okay.
My question feeds into this well. My question was, were there any storylines that you had planned that needed to be dropped after The Testaments came out?
Yes and no, because at the beginning of the process, I had to send my script to Margaret Atwood. I had never met Margaret Atwood. That was incredibly scary. Here's a version of your book that I wrote. Why don't you read it and tell me what you think? And it's like so I didn't go to the bathroom that week at all. But she read it and she liked it. But it's one thing to write a book that's based on a classic. It's another thing that she writes another fucking book and closes the other end. So it's like, oh my God, now I'm in between. So it's even worse. So Margaret and I started talking about The Testaments much earlier in the run of the show. So, she was thinking about it in season 1. I think a lot of it was just so fun to have this group of people who were really good writers saying, what if this happens? I think it was fun for her to kind of, she was always the one pushing me to do more and more crazy things. There were a few times, so we had talked about The Testaments and what would happen. And there were a few times I got phone calls out of nowhere that were like, Lydia can't die. Okay. Or the baby's name's Nicole.
Yeah.
So there were things she didn't explain them to me. She didn't have to. She's Margaret, but they were like, boom, don't do this. I definitely think that the book, The Handmaid's Tale, is followed by the sequel, The Testaments, and the show, The Handmaid's Tale, will be followed by the show, The Testaments, and they aren't all, because the show's already queered some things for this time. It's just too complicated, and I'd rather not make it accurate and unwatchable. I'd rather make it not so accurate and fun. Then it would be much. So it was very difficult to sit down and read what the future of your characters would be and know to see if you were aiming in the right direction or not. But Margaret had watched the show and read the script, so she was kind of on the same page, at least a little, enough that we weren't so far off. But I think that the characters, as I see them in The Testaments, I saw very few things that I felt like were really conflicting in the characters. I felt like our people, I mean, certainly the people in The Handmaid's Tale, the book, could have become those people. And so our people are definitely, June's a lot more of a modern woman. Lydia's a much more of a modern woman than they were in the book because the time period shifted. So I think that those people moving on to my Testament's world will carry that modernism with them, just as her characters carried their 1986-ness with them, or then the book was written. But I think in the end, it just makes things difficult because you have another parameter. But television, you guys can go on as long as you want. For a long time, I had 43 minutes and 14 seconds to tell the story. And it couldn't be 15 seconds and it couldn't be 13. There are so many parameters in television. I mean, thank God I don't do breaks for commercials. I mean, HULU puts those in because I would never be able to do it. And so, but I don't have to write in acts anymore where I used to have to write in acts. There were so many of these parameters. So I don't hate having that to the Testaments and Margaret in my ear and the Handmaid's Tale. The guidance is worth any steering that Margaret feels like she needs to. And at this point, I say this shockingly, Margaret's my friend, and Margaret would call me if she didn't like something. And she's just exactly she's a Canadian national treasure. What can I say?
Of course.
Pretty cool friend to have.
Yeah, I know it is. And she's just hilarious she's so busy. She's busier than all of us combined. People say, oh, how much time, do you go to her a lot to consult? I'm saying she's never available. I would go to her every day. I mean, she's never around. She travels all over the world, does all sorts of stuff. She writes other things, I hear,
Yeah, we see her posts on Instagram. Seems like she's having a lot of fun out there.
I know. She seems to be having a lot of fun out there in the world. So,
yes.
It's good to be Margaret Atwood.
Yep, last one.
Hi, Ginger.
Hi, Bruce. It's nice to meet you.
It's nice to meet you. Where are you?
I'm in New York.
Okay.
So my question is, one of the things I really love about the show is just how much attention to detail. It just seems like everything that's in the show that you show us is significant. And so I was wondering if, since everything is so purposeful, has there ever been a time where maybe fans picked up on something that you didn't intentionally add and it just worked out that way, that kind of worked in your favor? Or maybe the other way, where you put something in there that maybe everybody took the wrong way?
All the time. Because I think that, in the show where there is a lot of attention to detail, even the details that don't mean anything gather your attention. So I think it's part of, but I'm trying to make you guys lean forward and watch really, really closely, looking for all those little things. It's just, I'm totally tricking you to lure you in to watch more carefully. So, so anything you find that isn't supposed to be there, that's fine too. But the attention to detail comes from two things, which is simplicity and delegating, which is I have to know about what the show's about and what everybody's trying to do very simply, because everybody on the cast and crew has to do it, not just the people at the top, not just the department heads. So I said, basically I want everybody to know what the story is and what story we're telling. And so at the beginning, when we were building sets, we told everybody building sets, doing costumes, what Gilead was. So that those things could actually line up. So, but what that does is you get to the point where one day I got a call from the guy who's painting the set, whose name we have a lot of people who paint. He calls me up and he says, the red we're using is really toxic. Would they use that in Gilead? Because it might. And I was like, no, I don't think they would. It's okay. I'll paint it on so it looks like it was a lower grade paint and there's a little more gray, a little more of the primer coming through. And I was like, I love you. I mean, everybody is so on the story.
That's amazing.
Everybody.
Wow.
The dresses, the Handmaid's dresses are made to be maternity dresses. They have a panel and they split. So you don't have to change dresses when you become pregnant, when you get pregnant. So everything is so well thought out. And I like everybody on the show to be pulling on the same things, which is, Gilead is fertility trumps everything. So everything you think, fertility trumps everything. Think about that. Think about no words, when there are no words. Think about what that means. How do you communicate? How do they get around? How do think about all those kinds of things, but think about them deeply and how they affect what you do. So they affect my writing, but they affect other people's painting. So I think that level of detail, I'm certainly going to throw things out that people misunderstand. I'm really not trying to make it a jigsaw puzzle that goes together. I'm trying to make it more of a wave that washes over you, and then you're kind of left a little sputtering on the beach. So I don't think
we've just been dumped on the beach.
Yeah, you've just been dumped on the beach. But I think that the thing I always don't like, and when I want to reach out to people like you guys, is when people make an assumption and then go down the road like that is, and they've made the wrong assumption. I feel so bad because they're misunderstanding a whole bunch of things later that are meant to be X and now seem like they're Y. Those are always the things when it isn't just a detail, it's a lens detail, a detail that's going to change other details.
Yeah.
You don't want that. But I also I'd rather give too many details and have people go down rabbit holes that not make it interesting in that way, and not have June know the scope of her life and remember things that are connected to each other, and not have parallels, and not have things that don't mean something in 1 minute and then mean something else in another minute. We're at a time where you guys can go back and watch the whole show all the way again. So all that stuff has to track. It's not like, when I was a kid, I'd watch repeats in the summer sometimes, and they're on once a week. You never remember. So here, I try to be as careful as I can, and I'm only human, and we do keep track in a lot of other ways. We don't have what's called a Bible. I don't believe in the Bible, and I don't believe in a Bible. But we have lots of ways to keep track. We have a huge timeline, and we have a huge set of kind of character biography stuff. But mostly it's kept in our wonderful Allie Monroe, who moved up from being a PA to a writer in the years of the show. She started out answering the phones, and now she's
that's awesome.
She was a staff writer last season, and she's a story editor this year. She's a very, very, very good writer. But she also is my young brain. So she remembers absolutely everything. I mean, I can't tell you how many times it's like, how old's Hannah? Because it's so hard to remember, because sometimes 2 years have gone by for us and like 2 days on the show. So poor Jordana's 2 years older. I mean, she doesn't age like Hannah. She's a real girl. And by the way, I know she's lovely and she's so still on camera. She could not be more animated in person. She's such like a vibrant kid. Really? And then we have to push all of that down and say, okay, now you're Gilead. Because she's so like, hi, she's adorable. Aww. And I don't know, she's 11, I think, or 12. She's very tall for her age, but she's wonderful. And the same thing, I mean, it's another subject, but the amount of life people have gone through, real life, I'm sure you guys too, since the beginning of the show. Yeah. When I met Yvonne, she told me she was thinking about moving in with her boyfriend. Now she has 2 children, one of whom walked for the first time yesterday, the younger one.
Oh my God.
So I, of course, made her come to some event while her kids home.
Yes.
I'm like the Grinch. Anyway.
The details made me think, did a license plates ever mean anything, or am I insane?
See, the thing is, you guys, that is the other codicil of what I'm saying, is they certainly could, because the person making the license plate knows the story.
Yeah, all right.
So I could not know anything, and they could know. Yeah. So, yes, I think all of those things could mean something, but I don't want to mislead people. That's the thing. So listening to podcasts really helps me understand what came through and what didn't come through, and also what you guys took away. So I defer to you. It isn't like if you see something and you thought it was X and it really means Y. I defer to you guys. I think of it as meaning Y, because it doesn't mean what I think it means. A pitcher doesn't pitch a home run. You hit a home run. I just throw the ball all over the place. It isn't my home run. So if you guys see something big and pull some stuff together, great. And also, people have all these theories about color, which I don't know, but Nicola knows. And we certainly had the colors of the show were very, very carefully chosen. I mean, someday, I guess when this show is done, I'll publish a book of the camera tests of the show, of all the different colors and all the different things, and all, Lizzie with her head down in bonnets and white and all that kind of stuff. But we chose super carefully. So if it means something to you, it may not have been chosen to mean that, but it had meaning to us.
Yeah. Oh, I love that answer.
That's cool.
That's awesome.
I love all your answers. This has been amazing. Thank you. And thank you for your patience. There's a lot of us and we appreciate it.
I'm so glad there are a lot of you.
So are we. And we have you to thank for our new friendship. So.
For bringing you together.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, it's okay. Most of my friends have left me, so it's a good match.
No,
that's not true. The job is busy.
Yes, like you just said, that sounds insane. Is the writer room opening? Like, I don't know. Do you know that? Yeah.
Yes, I know.
Well, it's on your board already, so
It's on my see, my writer's room doesn't close
right.
my head. So, and this is the last season. I'm not gonna like go to Aruba for 2 weeks and not think about it. I mean, people only fuck up the last season of a show.
No pressure.
They only fuck it up. It's only a bad, yeah. So no pressure. I mean, when I did the pilot, I kept thinking every single pilot I've seen, like 92% are terrible. How do I make it good?
You did it. You succeeded.
You did succeed.
Well, I just decided it wasn't a pilot, just an episode of the show. I like it. It's like episode 3,
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's probably what this season, the final season, will be. Is I don't expect the a big climax off the cliff. I mean, it's been up and down the whole way along on purpose.
It has been a roller coaster, sir.
Yeah, so that you won't know what it's going to end like and how we're going to get. You won't be leading up to someone is being walked to the guillotine, and I would rather. Like I said, you want to get to the end and say, I didn't see that coming, but it's inevitable.
Yeah. Please don't leave us on a cliffhanger, Bruce. No.
Yes, please.
Like the book?
One thing I wanted to say, like the book. One thing I wanted to say that I didn't was just, I think we interviewed Eva Vives, and I thought it was really incredible of you and Warren she's an incredible director, obviously, of her own, talent, but I think it's really interesting to bring in survivors of sexual abuse and involve them in the show. I think that it's cool that you guys act, you practice what you preach. That's all.
Thank you. And it's in this case, it's totally mercenary. I mean, I think she brings so much more to the table because of that. She's a fantastic director with a connection, a horrible connection to the material. I didn't know any of that when we hired her.
No.
I just thought she was good.
Yeah, she's amazing.
But I think all of the things that she brought out in the show are the same stuff she brought out in her work. And if that's where it comes from, it's coming from the same place. But most importantly, it's how they work with the actors. I mean, she is such a smart, lovely human. And that's the thing. I mean, they're working very hard. It's long days. It's been going on for a long time and they love each other, but you have to find a way to be inspired by the director. So their interaction with the talent is paramount.
Right. Yeah. Before we did this, I just didn't even understand that directors come in and meet the actors and film 2 episodes. Like that seems so challenging to the actors and the everybody. So it's just really interesting.
But you'd be surprised how many journalists who I talk to have no idea what my job really is and how TV really works. They're always asking questions. I'm like,
how do you not know that?
How do you not know that? But I guess, it's more opaque than I think. On the outside, but it's the biggest group effort in the world. So all the nice things you said to me are for all of them.
You have a hell of a team.
I guess you'd probably enjoy talking to people who actually know what's happening in the show. I feel like maybe some people that you get interviewed by, like, I don't want to name names, like the press don't really know what they're talking.
Oh, there's some people who obviously have never seen it, which is very funny.
Yeah.
And then there's people who do tons of research, like don't like the show, but they like absolutely devour it and ask you a million questions because they absolutely know what's going on. The kind of fan-based journalism that we kind of have for this podcast is not something I've had on any other show. So people who actually like the show, keep up on the show, and are learning from the outside kind of how TV works, they're learning so much more than these people who are journalists in the business and don't seem to quite get, like the basics of how things work.
And we've really loved really loved talking to Zane Knisley, and Nick Daly, and just
Zane is amazing. And those people are they're storytellers, and what you want to do in my job is to hire every single person should be so much better at their job than you are. If you hire, that's the whole thing. These showrunners who walk around the editing room go, could you flip that and slow that down and drop that in and push that image? I go, that's not funny. Could you make it funny? That's not scary. Could you make it a little scary? So, I don't know how to do any of those things, but I'm a showrunner, and at some point during the season, I'm going to get bronchitis. Because we all get bronchitis, and I'm not going to be able to work. Not a little, but like completely gone from work. And my goal is always that nobody notices, that nobody at the studio or the network on set knows I'm gone, because it all works so smoothly. So I cultivate a great laziness.
You are not lazy.
Do you get to go on set much, or do
they allow you on set?
I was on. No, I'm forbidden to be on set. I'm very, very scared of Lizzie. I would prefer to be on set every day, even though it's a pain in the ass and a very hard, different part of the job, because it feels like everybody's at camp and you're not. I hate it. I mean, the first 3 seasons or the first 2 seasons, I was there all the time, first 3 seasons. And then 4, I was there for a day. I saw Lizzie.
Of course, yeah.
She was directing. I saw Lizzie, and then I didn't see her for 2.5 years in person.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah.
The next time I saw her.
That's crazy.
So, and we direct, and she directed for the first time and the second time and the third time and the fourth time, and we produced together, but we never see each other. So that kind of stuff is, I would love to be on set. If I do my job really well, I don't say anything. I do the New York Times crossword puzzle because I've done my job well beforehand. So I should have almost nothing to do.
That's cool.
You guys interviewed Burton, did you?
Yes.
He's amazing.
Our first interview. It's great.
He's amazing, and he does so much for the show story-wise. He is absolutely essential to the level of storytelling we are. I mean, we have actors who are not very vain, which is very good, but that doesn't matter if your makeup person is vain or doesn't want this or that. So I think he makes everybody feel absolutely comfortable. Lizzie wants to look like a real person, and
which I love,
which I love, and she's got it. Well, it's hard because I don't now when I see June, I don't really see Lizzie anymore at all in there.
Yeah,
which is her goal.
They're very different. Yeah,
they're very different. Well, Lizzie is so sunny that her entire face is different.
Sunshine personified. Yeah.
But her entire face is different all the time because June's never smiling, so she has another face. This but Lizzie is very. I think she loves what she does for a living on a level that you always hope, and so I think that's why she really enjoys. I mean, when we're on set and she's directing, she's like, "I can't fucking believe they're paying us for this."
Oh, that's awesome.
I love that.
I mean, it's so fun. So.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
So good to talk to you, and thank you for doing all this, and please reach out to get other people to come on the show. I love listening to the interviews.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much for all the time that you've taken.
Thank you so much.
Oh no, it's my pleasure. Goodbye. Take care. It's nice to meet you all. Please pass my best along to the absent ones.
Happy finale day.
Oh, thank you.
Bye. Bye, you guys.
I've listened to another interview, I think, with Sam, maybe.
I wish. Can you get Sam on here?
Yeah.
Sam's a slut. Sam will go anywhere.
Oh, okay.